YouTube, welcome back. This is the Allegheny Northern in N-scale, and today we're going to finally be talking about 3D printing. This video is going to be very helpful for some of you, and the rest of you it's probably going to upset. And the reason is because I know a lot of you want the answers to all of your questions, and just like DCC, I cannot give you all of the answers to all of your questions in a video. It's going to be a series of videos. And I don't know that I'm doing a series of videos right now, but this is going to give you, if you're kind of already into the 3D printing and you're sort of kind of already there and you understand the language a little bit, this is going to help you get over the hump. If you are brand new, this is going to give you a little taste of what you can expect, and it's going to probably be a little bit of eye-opening for you. So what we're looking at here, this is the Anycubic Photon Mono M7 Max. It is the largest of the resin printers that they make. And real quick, here is the resin vat. Now this does come off, and what you're seeing here is the film. And this film is what keeps the resin in the resin bowl and off of the LCD screen, which is where the curing happens. And it's a UV resin, so it's a UV light. I think you understand how that works. Okay, just out of scene here, and I'm going to tilt you up so you can see it. That right here hanging is the build plate. And we're going to talk about the build plate here in a second because it is going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. Now, I also got this thing with the autofill feature. So this is going to autofill and also pulls out the resin. It is one of the greatest features in the world. And if you've ever tried to dump a resin vat, you know how much of a pain in the ass that absolutely is. And I tried it just for shits and giggles and ended up with resin pretty much everywhere. So that thing is an absolute lifesaver. While we're talking here, I'm going to go ahead and get my print started. I don't know that you're actually going to ever see this print finish. It's going to take about 48 minutes, according to 46 according to here. But essentially, I've got a little flash drive plugged in here. I've built my models already. This screen will show you all of the models that I have in here that are ready to go. You've seen a lot of them with the photograph anyway. Let me show you what I'm doing here. This is kind of an example. So if you are somebody who's 3D printing right now and you're getting some frustrations, this will make all the sense in the world to you. So I have a lattice boom crane here, and you can see that I've got the body of the crane right here, the start of the lattice work, and then this is the back portion where you'd have all your spools. Here is the truck crawler assembly that this would fit onto. I made them as separate pieces so that I could position this however I wanted it. And then this is where the lattice work should be. And you'll notice that I have a lot of supports, but I don't have any actual lattice work. So that is the problem that we're fixing here today, because I thought it was the printer that had an issue. Turns out it was not the printer that had an issue, it was the model. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this thing that I want to print, and I have all of the pre-check functions selected here, so it's pretty much going to do everything automatic, and I'm just going to let it do its thing here. So I'm going to tell it to print. I am using the Anycubic high-speed resin. It always does ask me whether or not that's what I'm actually using, just because if you don't have that setting right, it will be it's not going to work correctly. And I'm going to tell it okay. So this is going to take a little bit for it to do all of its adjustment, and you're going to notice this thing, the setup process for this is really, really slow. And you can have it so that the plate doesn't go up as high, so that it doesn't take as long to come back down. But then when you're trying to clean up the resin at the end of the night or the end of the print session, whatever it is, it just ends up being in the way anyway. So this is just how I'm going to do it. Okay, so let's get in and let's talk about some basics here while we're watching this printer go through its startup process. Let's talk about the parts and pieces first. I think that will help you the most. Okay, the build plate. This has got to be leveled. So your printer should have a leveling feature. You take this tray off. There's a paper that you set down. That paper is just to protect the screen. You loosen the bolts on this thing so that it free floats, and then you let the printer set its adjustment. As soon as it tells you that it is good to go, you tighten those bolts just as tight as you possibly can, and you let this thing stay in its level. If you are getting prints that are not sticking to the bottom of the plate, I guarantee you, unless there's something wrong with your plate or your actual UV unit, it's because your plate's not level. So if your build plate is not sticking, the model's not sticking to your build plate, check that first. Some things you're going to want to have. Obviously, you're going to want to have more than one bottle of resin. Do not buy one bottle of resin, because what you're going to find out is this thing will pump in an entire bottle of resin just right off the rip, and then it'll warn you that you don't have any resin left. So I know that the bottle that it's about to pull from is about half full. So at some point in time here, you're going to see that it's going to come up with a warning that there's no resin, and we'll take care of that here. The nice thing about this feature is you do not have to babysit this printer. So if you are in the middle of a long print, the autofill feature will autofill, and you're going to see it right there. It's going to drop down and start pumping the resin into the vat. Okay, so the type of resin you use, there's a lot of types out there. I use the high-speed resin. It's fine. It works great. It's produced very high-quality models, but you have to make sure that the settings for the printer and from the slicer are correct for that particular resin. So as long as they are, you're set and ready to go. I'll get into that here in a little bit as far as setting it on the software. So this thing's going to do a couple of things. It's going to fill up first, then it's going to heat, and then it's going to start printing. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for the printer itself. Once it gets started here, we'll pull the lid down and we'll let it do its thing. The next thing is you're going to get one of these little plastic scrapers. This is really great for helping get the resin to the suction unit and help scrape everything off, but it shouldn't be used for anything else. Then you're going to get a metal spatula. You can see that I've got, it's almost like a putty knife, and this is used to pry the model off the build plate. And in 46 minutes, we'll be doing the same thing here. And then, obviously, you've noticed that I'm wearing gloves. You do not want to get this resin on your hands. Have I got it on my hands? Oh yeah, absolutely I have. It leaves like a very greasy feeling, and it's not something that you want absorbed into your hands. So I am going through a ton of rubber gloves. Okay, that is pretty much the components that are going to come with your printer. So everything else is real easy. It connects to the internet just like every other printer does. I'm not familiar with, if you have a different printer or a different brand, I am not familiar with any other printers. I will not be able to help you with those printers. I can tell you what my printer does. I'm sure a lot of the settings are the same. This is not a filament printer. It doesn't do filaments. So if you have a filament printer, that is a totally different way of doing it. Theory is the same, but it prints completely different. You are not going to get the level of detail with a filament printer that you are going to get with a resin printer, which is why I went with a resin printer. So if you have a filament printer, it's probably okay for bigger scales. For N scale, I would not recommend a filament printer. I know some of you are going to say, oh, I built you with a filament printer and it's just fine. Yeah, that's fine if you're building buildings and some bigger things. If you want fine detail, fine railings, stuff like that, it's not going to work. It's just that the technology isn't there yet. You want the resin. The other thing that we didn't talk about on this printer is that film, okay? So there is a film that separates this resin vat from the LCD screen. And that resin, that film has to be, there's two different types. And so I am using the ACF film. And okay, so it just gave me the warning here that I'm out of resin. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take this baby off of here and switch it around. This stops you from having to pour resin to really touch resin. It's pretty much just flip it and go once the light turns green. You do have to make sure you have good suction, so you have to get this tightened pretty good on here, because if it can't suck the resin out, then your print will absolutely fail. And then there's always a little bit that it doesn't get out, so I just take that and dump it into which is all well and good. And then we're going to tell it to go ahead and just start printing. So, okay, so now it's going to go ahead and heat the vat up and check your resin to see what temperature it should print at. You will get different resins maybe at different temperatures. I think this thing gets up to about 23 or 26 degrees Celsius. I can't remember. I think this one's 26. And you're going to ask me what the hell's 26 degrees Celsius. No freaking clue. It's in that system that nobody uses. Actually, everybody uses, but doesn't matter because, you know, whatever. It's America. We use imperial, so I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, and I didn't bother looking up. Not important. It knows what it's doing, and it's going to go ahead and do it. So, okay. But that film, that's what we were talking about. Definitely buy yourself some extra film, okay? You can buy it in, I think, 3 or 5 rolls. I've got it in 5. And I'm going to tell you, the first film, I think, lasted probably 2 prints. And then I ruined it. One, because I used the metal spatula instead of the plastic one because I had gotten a print stuck to it. And I know some of you guys that have been doing this forever are laughing, right? Okay, rookie mistake. Oh, I was a rookie. The other thing is, when you get a print stuck on your resin, because your plate's not level, there's some good ways to get that off. Basically, you take this tray out, and then if you run your finger gently along the underside, you can usually get that to pop right off. And then if that happens, you don't damage the film. The film's good for, I think, 45,000. This is the ACF film. I know I didn't mention this ACF film. There's an FEP film. You're going to ask me what the difference is. I don't know. I just know that my printer takes the ACF film. So be careful with which film you buy. Also be careful what size you buy because there's different sizes based on the size of your printer. So this is 13 inches by something or other. You know what? It might actually say on the box here. Let's see. 13.6 inches. That only gives me one dimension. So that's obviously the long dimension. Okay, so that's pretty much the parts and the pieces. Let me switch you over here to show you part 2 of this process, because once you actually make the print, then you've got to cure it and you've got to wash it. Now, of course, they make a really nice complimentary set for this, which is a wash and cure station. It does pretty much everything for you, which is really nice. And I know you guys are wanting to go, oh, you just handled the side of the gloves. There wasn't any resin on my hands, or on my gloves, so we're good. Okay, let's take a look at the wash. Okay, this is the wash and cure. The bottle goes in the top here. There's a basket inside. Basically, all you do is you hit the auto wash and tell it to start, and then it will wash and cure. I've got 99.9% alcohol on the left-hand side. There's an equal tank on the other side that is just water. It does need a drain, so I've got a drain right down there. See it? Yep, goes into that bucket. Not the most convenient setup, but they do give you the bucket out of all things. And I'm going to go ahead and put the lid down here on the printer since we are starting our print. But this is the setup here. So all told, this particular setup here, I think the workbench was like 150 bucks that it's sitting on. It's at standing height because I really don't sit at the printer. I pretty much set this thing to print and then I walk away. But then you've got about $1,000 in the printer and the wash station. Plus you've got to buy your resin, your film, and your isopropyl alcohol. So that's all going to be extra. But you can get the complete setup, and you're going to be under $1,500. So that's what you're looking at if you go with this. They do make smaller printers. There are other versions. Once again, I don't know about them because I don't have them. And when I was doing the research, I picked this because while it's probably oversized for N-scale, I have some other ventures that I'm in that need a larger print, and this is going to enable me to do that. So let me just show you right here, because this is now the screen that has the print going on. But it gives you all the useful information. It tells you what the temperature is here. It tells you what file you're printing. It tells you the time remaining. And it tells you what layer it's printing. Also, if there's any warnings that happen, they will pop up right here. And that will be, you'll know if there's an issue. Okay, let's go look at the software, because that's probably where most of you are getting. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to talk about printing and not do, actually talk about the prints. So when you get a model and you get it all cleaned up and ready for paint, it's going to look something like this, right? So it's going to be ready to go. It's going to be all smooth and just needs primer coat. Now this model printed very, very well, and it's pretty much just ready for paint, ready to rock and roll. But we had some prints that did not print very, very well. And I want to show you those because it's going to tie into what we're talking about. So here's a dozer, and you're going to notice that there are some supports here, but you can see that there is nothing that they are supporting. And then also you come down here, you can see how fine these rails are, and some of them have broken off. But in general, you can see that there's some issues here. Okay, I know what those issues are. So this print is a repairable print. The reason I did not throw this away is because the railings that are missing, I can very easily add with wire that I have. So I'm just going to bend some brass wire, and this is a salvageable model. But let me show you something here, because I'm going to show you the same model, but what it's supposed to look like, and see how there's these railings up here. But you'll notice that these railings are missing because they came off with with the supports. And then you're going to notice that these two dozers look a little bit size difference wise. This right here is the correct size, and this is an oversized dozer that it just didn't print quite the way I envisioned it. So it's actually not really going to get finished because it's not correct. And that's my goof in the software. Sometimes math is hard when you're trying to scale things. But I'm going to show you that here in a second. But what I did notice is, and here's a small dozer, this is a D6, so it's just a little guy. And you can see how little it is compared to the D11. So I set the scale, and it's great that these are both Caterpillar dozers, and if you go on Caterpillar's website, you can actually find the dimensions of these machines and get them plugged in so they scale correctly. And then this is the last run of this dozer, of this snowplow front loader with the wings. You will notice that this version has the correct drawbar here in the back and hydraulic used for raising and lowering the side plows. But you'll notice that that this version does not have that. So it was one of those things that after I printed it, I realized I didn't model a piece, and I had to go back. So I'm not going to get rid of this one, because this is something that I can still use. But this is the one that's the right one. So the reason I tell you that is because modeling these things is kind of complicated. Sometimes there's a lot of things that you'll think, oh, I got a great model here, and then you'll print it and you'll go, whoops, that was stupid. Or in this case, you'll realize that you should print the dump trucks separate from the truck body from the dump body. Now you'll notice that all of my railings here are missing. Once again, I kept the print because it's fine, other than the fact that I don't have these railings here. They didn't print correctly. But once again, I know what the issue is, and I fixed it. So future prints, because I need a couple of these I need a couple of these, and now I know what that is. So we're making progress. It's good. But breaking the model into smaller pieces is really good, because if you have something like this excavator, the problem that you're going to have is all of this is going to get filled in with supports, and when it does, you're going to break all of your details trying to get those supports off of here, and you'll notice that I lost all of my railings and whatnot. So I've actually broken this up into pieces. I've actually manipulated my model so that I've got a version of it actually dumping like it's dumping into the dump truck. So there's a lot that you can do with this stuff once you have the model built. And like I said, that's a whole other topic, but it's really cool. And so I highly recommend, when you figure what you're going to model, it's easier for me to have it as one big model and then break up the pieces afterwards, because it just ensures that all of this lines up the way it's supposed to, right? So once again, these are early production runs. They wouldn't be something that I would want to market. But the cleaned up versions that I've been working on, yeah, those are much cooler. I can tell you, this is going to take on a world of its own for you. So when you see these models next, they will be finished and they will be on the layout. But this is what they look like when they come out. Okay, so here is why you probably can't find a one-stop video that has all of the answers to your 3D printing questions. And that is the simple number of variables that are involved in this make it almost impossible for somebody to capture all of the issues that you're having with your model and make it universal. Okay, so I'm going to try and give you the best guess that I can give you, that what's worked for me, because this is stuff that I sort of had to figure out the hard way. So I'm not going to get into the modeling process because there's so much involved in it, and I would be talking for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I can tell you that there are multiple programs that I'm using. I'm using Blender, which I think everybody knows. It's a free program. If you don't have it, but you want to do 3D modeling, you should definitely download it and try it, because the learning curve on it is very, very steep, like super steep. And then there is Fusion. And Fusion 360 was actually recommended to me by a viewer, and I don't remember who exactly that was, but thank you, because it is an amazing program. In fact, I use it for almost everything. The only thing that I really use Blender for is making sure that the model is pretty much ready to go, and making when I tell you when I broke this model apart, that was in Blender. And then I use Blender to repair it, because once you start breaking models apart, you'll see. But then everything that I added and did, and everything that I really needed to model, I modeled in 360, because Fusion is very CAD based, and I'm a CAD. I can be a CAD operator. I did it for a long time. I'm very familiar with the program, and so because it's an Autodesk program, it made life really, really simple. So Fusion 360 and Blender are my two programs to go to. But now the one you're looking at here, this is the Photon slicer. So this is the program that takes your model and it makes it ready for the printer, puts it in a language that the printer can read. So there are different slicers out there. There are generic slicers. This one is specific to any cubic. I know that there's a lot of different opinions out there on the slicers. It's fine. Yeah, do whatever you got to do. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I happen to like Photon just because it makes things very easy for me. But so I've imported my model here, right? Very simply. And you can do a lot of things here. You can move it, you can rotate it, you can do all kinds of different things here. I always like to keep it centered and on the platform. And from there, I am just going to, this model is actually already prepped and ready to print. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hollow it out. That's just going to hollow out some of these bigger shapes. You don't want to print them solid. It does take a minute to do that, so just let it do its thing. And it's on automatic feature, so you don't really have to, think about it, right? And then I generate the supports. You need to have supports. I prefer the light supports. If you're modeling something larger, and I don't mean larger in N-scale, I mean larger as in like you're doing a figure or a multi-piece, something that's very heavy, then you should take a look at your different supports. There are medium and there are heavy supports. You'll get an idea real quick if they are not working. I've used all of this as the default setting. I've played around with the different connection types. I've played around with different embedments and all that, and I found that the default setting is the best setting. And so for me, clicking the auto-generate supports is all that I have to do. it will automatically figure out what it needs to support. Now, I will tell you that from there, I do go in and I make some additional supports sometimes. If I look at something and I go, you know what, I don't think this is really going to print correctly. And you got to remember that technically we're looking at this model upside down, right? Because this build plate, you remember the build plate kind of comes down, right? So it comes down like this. So this part is actually flipped, and the model hangs upside down on the build plate. So when you're looking at this thing, understand that this is going to be the part that's hanging down at the bottom. It's going to be the last part that prints. This is going to be the first part that prints. Okay, you got to think reverse like that, because then you'll see where the stresses are going to be on your model, and you'll start to learn where you need to support something. So once this thing finishes the supports, I'll show you what I mean. It doesn't usually take this long to do that. This model is particularly complicated, and so it's been taking a long time to do everything. I will tell you that I ended up having to buy a new laptop. Well, one, because my old laptop, crapped the bed on me, so didn't really give me much choice. But it also didn't have nearly enough RAM that I needed to be able to do this, so I had to get a new computer. So this is an Alienware. It's got 32 gigs. It's got a you're gonna ask me what processor it is. It's a big one. It's one of NVIDIA's newer cards, so it handles processing speed, graphics really well. It's actually a gamer's laptop. But okay, so I'm just gonna look here and I'm gonna see if I got any part of this model that is. Remember, this is the bottom. This is the last thing it's gonna print. So anything that's dangling out here that looks like it might need support. And this thing's got supports all over the place. I don't think I'm going to need to add anything else on this one. So maybe this was a bad example, but it looks like it's supported just about everything. So we're going to go ahead and call that good. But okay, when you set up your printer, you have different types of prints, right? This program lets you select the printer you have, so I selected the printer that I have. It lets you select the resin, and this is all Anycubic resin, but there's standard resins in here too, generics that you can set it as. And then there are these print settings for the fast print, a normal print, and a high quality print. I always use the high quality print. Okay, and then there is this. Now you look at this and you go, okay, that doesn't look like too many settings. Yeah, but there's all of this as well. And then you can actually go into some more advanced things. I can tell you that I'm not messing with any of these. And I'm not even messing with this advanced stuff because I haven't needed it. So here is, for me, what is working, and you can kind of see this on the screen here, I think, a little bit. But my layer thickness is 0.03. Normal exposure time is 1.8 seconds. Okay, so that means that the plate is down for 1.8 seconds per layer. You can increase this, you can decrease this. The more you increase it, the longer the exposure. You don't want to overexpose and you don't want to underexpose. Your print will fail. You are going to have to find the sweet spot on your printer and with your resin. That's kind of why I hesitate in even giving you these numbers, because yours might be different. Your off time, mine is 0.5 seconds. That is just, so it's going to 1.8 seconds light, 0.5 seconds off. And then you're going to see here that in each lift, it's coming up 6 millimeters. So that means after it prints and cures, it's going to pull off the paper, off the film, 6 millimeters. That's to grab the print, right? And then you're going to have 15 millimeters a second. That's how fast it pulls up. And your retract speed, your Z retract speed on this is 15 millimeters per second as well. And I found it better. I know that I rip on everyone that's using the metric system because it's stupid. But for the modeling, you're going to want to do everything in millimeters. So it gets a little confusing, because what I do is I model everything in millimeters, but then when I scale it, I use inches, because at N scale at 1/160th, I know I have 160 real inches per every inch of model, and so it's just very easy to take a 25-foot model, a 25-foot distance in real life, convert that into inches, and then take those inches, divide it by the 160, and find out how wide my model should be. So that's just how I do it. If you've got another way you want to do it, knock yourself out, but that is the easiest way for me. 5 layers of material on the bottom. I expose those layers for 20 seconds. You're going to find that you want your exposure time somewhere between that 20-30 seconds. You might be able to get away with 15, but if your model is not sticking to the build plate, chances are you don't have either enough layers on your bottom or you don't have enough exposure, and it's just not sticking. And what will happen is it'll stick to that film, and then that's going to be an issue. Bottom off time 3 seconds, and then wait before lift and wait after lift. Those are all 0 for me. Okay, so once again, if you are somebody who is currently doing 3D printing and struggling, those numbers probably mean a lot to you. If you are somebody who is new to this, I probably just spoke a foreign language to you that you don't understand, and that is where I was, a month and a half ago. This is a trial by fire part of the hobby. You are going to have to try it. That's the only thing I can tell you. You're going to have to try it. You're going to have to do it. There is not a good way to do it. You are going to be able to dial in your sweet spot once you understand what these settings do. You can bring up the Google, and very easily you will be able to see what is what your problem is. So if you put in, model looks like it melted, it's going to give you 5 or 6 reasons why your model might have melted. Exposure time, lift speed, or it could be the resin setting. There's so many variables. So for me to look at a model now, I can look at it and go, ooh, I have an issue here. I think it's the speed setting. I think it's the exposure setting. Now, where it throws you off is the issue. The issue could actually be the model itself. You're going to find this probably more when you import a mesh from somewhere. Like if you download it from somebody else and they did some funky things with it, or they were trying to correct it. But I've also noticed it myself, where you can get the faces of the model kind of reversed. You can get the normals on the mesh reversed, if that's what you're using. You can really funk it up in a lot of really funky ways. So you can get funked and stay funked, and I think you guys know what I mean by that. And if you've gone through your printer settings and you've looked at this and you've gone, this all should be right. It's very, very possible that it is, and it's actually in the model. Now, this program, as I was saying, has a feature where I can actually repair the model. And if you click that, and you want to see that the mesh is closed, you want to see that the mesh is oriented. That's the normals I was talking about. And then it will actually repair the model for you, if it can. I mean, if you've got something really funky in there, it won't. But also, Blender has an option where you can download a 3D print module, and it's really sweet. You actually just go online, you grab the module, you drag it from your browser and drop it right onto Blender, and it just works. Blender is an amazing program, and both Blender and Fusion are free. So if you even want to start messing around before you have the printer like I did, you can learn a lot before you even try printing. Fortunately, you won't know if your models are successful until you print them, but it's pretty cool. So after I do this, and we never actually did this, but you go to the slice plate, and it's going to prepare this model for printing. And so this tells me right here that this model is going to take an hour and 48 minutes 38 seconds to print. You'll find that that's pretty close. The printer usually comes up a little bit shorter than that. It's telling me that I'm going to use 35.215 milliliters of resin. The resin weight is going to be 42.258 grams, and the resin price for this particular print is $7.75. It's 7.747, so it's always rounding to 3 decimal points. And it shows you how it's going to sit on the build plate. And so basically at this point, I just save it to the flash drive, and then I bring it up to the printer. And so if you are somebody who is getting ready to sell your models, you know exactly how much each model is going to cost you to produce in resin, and then you factor out your time, and then there you go. So you can see that the resin cost is not very much. I can produce this model at $7, almost $8. So the cost, believe me, is not in the production, of the print itself. It's in the modeling time. So when you see somebody that's selling their model for $25, $30, $40, it's that time that they spent to make the model. It's what they're factoring, because the resin's not very much. But anyway, yeah, so that is the software that I'm using, and that's kind of the process that I'm using to get through this. I know that was a lot of information. I know that information was very, very fast, and was just a very generic, basic overview. One thing that we didn't cover is the smell. So let's get into some things that you got to consider for 3D printing. One is the time. Okay, so timing on this thing, you are going to have a lot of time learning the programs. Okay, I'm using 3 different programs: Blender, Fusion, and the photon slicer. Okay, then you're going to have to learn the printer itself, how to handle it, how to keep the Z platform level, and make sure you don't knock it out of level every time you remove a print. And then you're going to have to learn how to change your ACF film, which is, it's a half. I've done it 3 times now because I've ruined 3 sheets doing stupid things because I didn't know better. I've got it down to 30 minutes. It's going to take you 30 minutes to do it. So there's a lot of screws involved, and so you got to know that it's messy. I wear those rubber gloves because that resin is very, very thin, and it gets on absolutely everything. It will be on everything. Put it someplace where it doesn't matter if it gets on something, or protect the floor. Whatever you got to do, protect the table, protect the floor. Everything cleans up with isopropyl alcohol, but just be aware that it's a thing. It's a very messy process. The washing cure isn't bad, but I had one instance where, thank God, I was standing in the room, because of the washing cure, the hose knocked out of the bucket and it started shooting water and resin all over the damn floor. So, just things like that you got to be very, very careful of. You're going to need rubber gloves, and then we got to get into the smell. Okay, so the resin has a smell. It's a subtle smell, at least the resin that I'm using, but it's very noticeable. And so if you walked into the house during a print and I didn't have the air purifiers running, you would go, there's something going on in this house. My dad actually came over and said, do you have a candle lit? So it kind of has almost like a sweet smell to it. But the point of the matter is, you don't want to really be breathing that. Those are VOCs, volatile organic compounds, not good for your not good for inhalation, not good for your respiratory system. So you do want to get an air purifier. Now, don't go out to Walmart or to Target and buy a household air purifier. We're not dealing with a sick house syndrome here. We are dealing with a chemical. So you need something that's going to clean chemicals out. You need a charcoal activated filter. So just make sure you're getting the right equipment for your printing. But you do want to have those because otherwise your entire house, or whatever building it is you're putting this printer in, is going to smell like resin. And it's not a strong smell. And if you're somebody like me who smells don't really, I don't get nauseous with smells. They don't really affect me. But you'll get sick. You can get sick. You shouldn't be breathing it. So just get some air purifiers. Anycubic does sell them. Those are the ones that I use. Just makes life easier. Okay. So that is pretty much a crash course in 3D printing. And I know you're sitting there thinking, well, there's so much more. Yes, there is so much more. But this is, just some quick settings, some quick things to try to get you somewhat situated, so that you understand what we're doing. And then there's a lot to it. So future videos and future successes I will be sharing with you guys. But for right now, this is the intro to 3D printing. It was a lot of trial and error. I've probably had just as many failure prints as I have successful prints. I've got a lot of prints that technically failed, but I'm able to use them because of one thing or another. So that's just something to consider. Trial and error is a huge part of this process, and you will need to fail quite a few times before you realize, hey, I got this figured out. So best of luck. If you got any other questions, comments, something I can help you out with, I'm still kind of getting through this process and making this up as I go. So I will help you to the best of my knowledge. Like I said, if you ask me specific answers on printers or your printer, unless you have the same printer I do, I don't know. So I'm not going to be able to help you with that, but I can try to help you with your print failures, because I've failed to print pretty much every way I know how to fail print at this point. So I can tell you how I fix them.